What do you get when you've got an isolated, scary location out in the middle of British Columbia, a bit like The Shining, surrounded by snow, your typical horror movie demographic of young teens, with a jock, a geek, a bitch, the good-looking lass that everyone wants to get with, the popular lad, and the rich kid. A butterfly effect level of decisioning with almost unlimited amount of choices and implications that you can't even predict. A recognisable Hollywood cast with excellent facial recognition and voice acting and quick time events. The answer is Until Dawn, a story-driven video game very much in the sort of style of Heavy Rain, the Telltale series, that sort of type of thing. Yeah, everybody, this is Revolver84 and I'm going to give you a review of the video game Until Dawn.
My God, that is so gross.
So what's going on? Well, it's been 1 year since a tragic accident resulted in the death of some important family members, and a rich kid is inviting all those that were present back to his rich, very remote hilltop mansion with loads of open ground, space, forests, wildlife, that type of thing, with the idea of enjoying themselves, getting a bit gassed up, doing a bit booking, and maybe trying to put this tragic event that occurred 1 year ago behind them.
Josh,
What?
the rhythm's like weirdly regular.
Nothing regular about it.
So the gameplay switches between the main 8 characters very fluidly, and it all tells a story over the space of one night, with the objective of basically getting to dawn the next morning, when hopefully the nightmare will be over and they'll be saved. There are a lot of choices throughout the game, and often the choices aren't very clear cut as to what the right thing is. So, you do have your obvious choices, like if you pick up a knife, then you are holding a knife. In case some incident occurs where you engage in combat, you're armed. That's pretty obvious. There are other choices where you've basically got to go left or right. There's no indication as to which is the right way to go, or if there even is, quote, a right way. You've just got to go left or right. You're in the lap of the gods sometimes, and that brings an element of storytelling that is really quite enjoyable and adds to the replay value, because certainly during your first run through you've got no real indication as to which way is the right way, and ultimately those choices do matter because there is permanent death for your characters. It is possible to end this game with every character dead, all 8 of them. My first run through, I only had 3 survive. Is that right? 3? Yeah, I had 3 survive in my first run through. Got them all the other ones were killed through various different means. I'm not going to spoil any of them for you because that would be a bit shocking, but some of them were quite gross, quite strong, very impressive as well, quite original ideas, some of them. And in between this gameplay of the 8 main characters, you're taken to outside the main chapters to a location that's not really very well defined, to see someone called the Analyst. And the best way I can sort of describe the Analyst is literally a psychologist designed to discuss with you, the person, the player, you, and find out what your motivations are, what your fears are, how you tick. The idea being is that the game then tailors itself to your specific scary needs and requirements. It becomes a bespoke game designed just for you. If you find rats scary, then it's going to have rats in it. If you find eeriness and silence scary, it's going to have lots of periods of eeriness and silence to build up tension. That sort of level of bespoke management of the game makes it very personal to yourself, and it makes it feel like you're having a very unique experience, unlike something that someone else playing this game would have. It feels very unique and special just for yourself, quite rewarding in a way. Your choices are both strong and drive the game, creating a need to replay the game to get as many different possible variations of it as possible. Now, I don't know for definite how many versions there is, but I have 2 friends who've played this game, and none of us have played the exact same ending before. We've seen the endings, but none of us have played the exact same one. That helps drive the game, because as a story-driven game, you fall into the trap of things like The Walking Dead, where basically you don't want to play it over again because you've seen it. The thrills have been had, the shocks have been experienced, but in this game, because the story is driven by yourself and your actions to such a degree, you could end up playing a completely different game from what you played a previous time, which I think is very innovative, enjoyable, and very much the iteration of what Heavy Rain started back in the day. Now, it has built on Heavy Rain in sort of style and storytelling, so the graphics are significantly better, facial recognition is a lot better, but it's added something that Heavy Rain didn't have, and that is a Hollywood cast. You'll actually recognise the faces of some of these people from Until Dawn, from movies, TV programs, things that you've seen on TV and actual proper media. This is because this type of storytelling is breaking into the mainstream. This is only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger with the Telltale games and such like. This sort of type of storytelling is going to involve more and more Hollywood actors, and this game is definitely a milestone and a progression towards that eventual case. We already have the likes, like your Kevin Spacey's and Call of Duties and such like that. This is just going to perpetuate that and make it all the more faster. So I applaud it for being a new medium of storytelling, which is only going to evolve further. Now, what did I think of the game? Well, I'm going to tell you straight. It was scary as hell. Like there's no other way to put it. I was actually genuinely scared. I jumped out of my seat probably about 4 times during this game. I was engrossed in it. This is very much a game that you play by yourself in the dark, in silence, and you get totally absorbed by it. It draws you right in. Your heart begins to pound. Your hands begin to sweat. You feel a genuine connection with the characters. You want certain ones to live. You want certain ones to die. You put yourself in the mindset of what you would do in that position, and it makes you really interested in the story and drives the story along. You are invested as a player in the outcome of it, which I think is absolutely brilliant. There is also quick time events, which are more sort of designed to sort of speed up the storytelling and progress the game along, give you something to do other than standing and having conversations all day. They work really well. The quick time events are designed for instances where you have to move really quickly, and there's a potential for, if that doesn't happen, you could die. Similarly, there's a quick time event where you can actually use weapons like shoot things or throw things, and a target appears, and you've got a very short period of time to make your decision as to whether you shoot, don't shoot, shoot and miss. All those actions have different repercussions. Gameplay wise, really absorbing, excellent.
Protect me from the bad things that are out here, and I am just majorly bumming out.
Em, just stop. I'm really sorry. I don't know what I was thinking.
Oh, well, see, you weren't thinking, for one thing.
Now, that's not to say the game doesn't have its downsides, because it does, unfortunately. It takes the sort of traditional Resident Evil 1-2 sort of camera angle sort of approach, very much designed to sort of control the shocks and scares as they occur to make it more engrossing for yourself, and I sort of get that. But there is a downside to having those fixed angles and forever having the angles change as you progress through the room, and that is you could find yourself walking into walls. Also, you could be pressing left on the analog stick, the angle changes, and all of a sudden you are now walking right, although pressing the analog to press left. If you let go of that analog stick, you then have to press right to continue pressing to progress right. That can be a little bit frustrating, I'm not going to lie. It can be quite confusing when the combat or whatever sort of heats up and makes things more difficult. It's also not very clear sometimes on what you've got to do. So although it does tell you in the sort of pause menu that what your overall objective is, like for example, you need to get to this person, it doesn't actually tell you how to get there. There's no mini maps, there's no waypoints, nothing like that. It gives you a very generic sort of high level objectives to what to do to progress the story along to the next stage, but then it leaves you to do that. Now, there is an upside and downside of that, I suppose. I mean, the upside is it gets you to explore your environment more, gets you a bit more engrossed and interested in what's going on, but the downside that you can find yourself sometimes walking around in circles a little bit, not to the point that you're wasting too much time, but you do sometimes feel like you're not making much progress, which can be quite frustrating, like.
I just need a pitchfork and a mob.
So what's my verdict? Well, I have to be honest, I really enjoyed this game. I enjoyed the storytelling element of it. I enjoyed the replay value. The graphics were more than adequate to help support the story and not feel as though you were watching like a cartoon or anything. The characters were very interesting, engaging, and you had a genuine connection with them. The story itself was worthy of a classic horror movie, perhaps in a Wes Craven sort of style. The environment was excellent as well, very spot on, and it progressed at a pace that was appropriate for yourself. It wasn't just constant tension, and it wasn't just constant shocks. It was a up and down in a classic Hollywood style of tension, build up, scare, cool down, tension, build up, scare, cool down at a pace that didn't make you feel exhausted. I would definitely recommend this game, even if you just played it through once, as a game that you should definitely consider. It's relatively cheap as well now that it's been out for a while, so I would definitely recommend it. My overall rating, 8 out of 10. Very good game, excellent in fact. Probably the leading game in storytelling for the PlayStation 4. Give it a shot. Well, that's enough for me. I hope you found that enjoyable and interesting. Hope you've learned something for it. Thanks very much for your time. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button for more similar videos from myself, Revolver84. Take care. All the best. Ta-da.